Welcome to the Crack House Chronicles, your favorite true crime podcast. I am Donnie, and with me is a man that wants everybody to know that there's only two reasons to ride a bicycle. You're either exercising or you have a DUI. It's Dale.
Ain't that the damn truth?
Yeah.
Yeah, as soon as I got anything with a motor on it, you're done with a damn bicycle.
You don't ride a bicycle?
No.
Do you not?
No.
I don't either.
No, I got about 10, but I don't ride them.
Yeah, I don't ride a bicycle.
I'm too damn lazy.
I mean, they put all the gears on them. I still don't ride them.
Yeah.
Makes them easier, but I still don't ride them.
That don't make them easier. Just it's in your head. You just got to pedal 10 times
You still got to put forth an effort.
Yeah, you can put it on the easy gear. You're still pedaling 10 times more than you do the other one. It's just like, damn.
Like your feet and legs are going round and round and round.
You're not going anywhere.
No.
Yeah.
That's it.
Turns into a sitting around bike.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's it, bud.
Fun.
What's going on?
Oh, same old.
Same old?
Same old every day.
We're going to have to put same old on a t-shirt.
I know. We talk about it every week.
Yeah.
Same old.
Yeah, it's same old for me. Rainy day.
It is a rainy day.
But it's a good day to record a podcast. We're doing this on St. Patrick's Day.
It's always a good day to do a podcast.
Yeah, it is.
Well, happy St. Patrick's Day.
Yeah, everybody needs to start a podcast.
I don't got on no green to do.
I don't either.
I don't think. No, I know I don't.
No, I don't have any green on.
Hey with it.
It is. It is what it is.
It is.
But
No,
you can still drink beer, right?
I'm just trying to get pinched. Oh, yeah.
Yeah. You don't have to wear a green to drink beer.
No. Just crack one open and go for it.
Yeah. That's right. You don't care about the green as long as the beer is yellow.
Yeah, I don't want no green beer, dark beer. I don't know that shit looks like oil. None of that pine tar, whatever, roof shingle beer.
Yeah, grapefruit and coconut in it.
Yeah, no thanks.
No,
I don't care for none of that.
no. You got any good shout-outs, dude?
I do, man. We got a couple good Apple Podcast shout-outs.
Bring 'em on.
We got a couple of 5-star.
5-star.
Yeah. So first we got one from Noah with a whole bunch of numbers after it. Oh, wait. Anyway. Says, love this show! !
Wow.
Listen to y'all for most of my flight home from Germany last month. You both are so entertaining, and the content you cover is so interesting. Keep doing what you're doing. Well, thank you so much, Noah. We appreciate that. We appreciate any and all 5-star.
Mm-hmm.
And we got one more, just making this a double dinger.
Bring it on.
This is Perlita 0858. I hope I didn't butcher that too bad. Perlita, that's what it looks like to me. Anyway, and it says, love it. I just started listening to your podcast last week. I'm so happy I found y'all. I spend an average of 4 hours in my car daily. Ooh. I have truly enjoyed listening to you guys. I love true crime, but you two bring another spin to it with your charm. How about that?
We got charm?
Yeah, we charming.
Okay.
I actually look forward to getting back into my car so I can listen more. Thank you. And no, thank you.
Yes.
Perlita, or whatever that is. I'm sorry if
Perlita.
I butchered that. Yeah, it's really cool, whatever it is.
Yeah.
Anyway, that's 2 5-stars, and we appreciate it, man. Maybe with them two, somebody else can find us too.
That's it. If anybody wants to be like Perlita and Noah and go to Apple Podcasts and rate and review, please do.
Yeah.
Write something in the box.
Know a bunch of numbers.
Yeah, a bunch of numbers.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
We appreciate it a bunch.
Yeah, that's cool.
And tell all your friends about us.
Yeah. Tell them all.
Yeah.
Get their phone and, do it yourself. That's what you got to do.
That's right.
People are lazy. They need help.
Yeah, and just going to throw a little plug here for the store page. Get on there and get you some kind of merch. Get you a t-shirt. Get you a mug. Get you something cool. Get you a sticker.
Get you something cool, man.
Yeah.
I also like to say, man, our admin from the fan page, he's got a GoFundMe going right now for his wife. They're just trying to go make a trip. She's having some serious medical issues right now, and he said things are not looking real well for her, so she's just trying to get a trip to go to St. Louis from the place where they live. And we're going to post our GoFundMe, which I did the other day on my personal page and on our fan page. But if you guys could help them out, that'd be greatly appreciated. And hopefully by the time this comes out, maybe even reach their goal. And it's not that high. I mean, come on, throw them a few dollars.
Yeah.
And we can help somebody out. And we've all, lost somebody to cancer. I lost my mom, and my wife lost her mom. And it's kind of touching, man. And I just want to do what I can do to help anybody out. And if you could throw them $1, I appreciate it.
Any amount will help.
Yeah. So anyway, I just want to get that out there, man.
Don't think your donation is too small. Any amount will help them.
So and thank you, Rich, for what you do for us, and we hope we can help you out, buddy.
Yep, help them out. Pennies make dollars.
That's right.
Yep.
Okay.
Other than that,
let me go get my Kleenex and I'll be ready.
Other than that, we're gonna get started, bud.
Yeah, fuck cancer.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
But if anybody thought last week's episode, Boy in the Box, was rough, Hold your britches.
I think so. Go get your big boy underwear and put them on.
Yeah, because
big girl drawers or whatever you got.
Because this is your only warning. We're not holding back on this one.
No, it's pretty rough.
This is rough. So just hold on to your hat and hold on to your britches. Keep your britches up because this is going to be rough.
Yeah, because they'll take advantage if you don't.
Yeah, that's right. But we're going north of the border on this episode, Dale.
North?
Yeah, we're going to Canada.
Ooh, this is what, 3 times we've been to
This
Canada?
will be the 3rd time doing an episode from Canada.
I think it's 3.
Yeah. We did one on...
Lindsay Buziak.
Yeah, Lindsay Buziak. She was a realtor who was killed in a home she was showing for being a real estate agent.
Right.
And then we did Dino Bravo.
Dino Bravo.
Yeah.
Yes.
He was murdered in his home.
He was.
Yeah, he was a professional wrestler.
Professional wrestler, yep.
So
that was one of our early ones.
But this was not anything like that. This is
No.
pretty rough.
Yeah, only thing they might have in common is they were selling cigarettes.
Yeah.
Other than that.
Yeah, other than that, it's not anything like it.
No.
But we're talking about the Ken and Barbie Killers.
Yeah, that sounds real nice and all, but...
Yeah, it's not.
No.
But they were known as Paul Bernardo and Karla Holmoka.
Yes. They weren't known as, they were.
Yeah, they were. But we're going to talk a little bit about Paul first.
Okay.
Paul Kenneth Bernardo was born in Scarborough, Ontario.
Yes.
On August the 27th of 1964.
64.
He was the 3rd youngest child of Kenneth Walter Bernardo and Marilyn Elizabeth Bernardo. Now, he didn't come from a really good family, Dale.
No.
It was just bad from the get-go. His father often sexually abused his older sister, Deborah, even in front of other family members.
Oh, that's ballsy.
Yeah. But he would eventually be charged with crimes involving voyeurism and pedophilia.
So he was peeping Tommy, too.
Yes. And Paul's mother often withdrew from the family due to depression and agoraphobia.
You think so?
Yeah. Eventually just moving into the basement.
Yeah, well,
And said that she didn't care about her health or anything. She gained weight and just kept to herself.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, with all that going on, what are you going to do if you can't get out, you got to get away somehow.
Yeah.
It sounds like a pretty rough life.
But Paul, he seemed to be a happy-go-lucky kid and well-adjusted despite his family's dysfunction.
Well, he's putting on a happy face.
I guess. He was a member of the Boy Scouts, and he had a charming way about him, too, but he gradually developed pyromaniac inclinations and some dark fantasies, one of which involved creating a virgin farm where he would breed virgin girls to rape.
Yeah.
That was one of his fantasies.
It seems like on everybody's bucket list. What the hell?
Yeah.
What the hell?
But when he was 16 years old, there was a fight that broke out between his parents. This happened in 1981.
Yeah.
And Paul was informed by his mother that he was the result of an extramarital affair. And his father, Kenneth, was not his biological father.
Well, that's when, when all that stuff was going on before she banished herself to the basement. She just kind of got tired of what was going on and had struck up a relationship with a former schoolmate. And they hit it off and had an affair going off, and that's when she got pregnant. And Kenneth knew about it, and then actually even gave Paul his name, so it's kind of weird. But, yeah, Paul didn't know until this part.
Yeah, he was 16 years old.
Yeah, so I guess she came back and went to live in the basement.
Yeah, but
I don't know.
Paul, he was kind of repulsed by this, and he got to calling his mother slut and whore.
Yeah.
And she would turn around calling him bastard from hell.
What a family.
Yeah, good times. Pass the taters. Yeah. Now, Paul, he attended Sir Wilfrid Lawyer Collegiate Institute, and in 1982, he attended the University of Toronto, Scarborough. As his day job, Paul, he got a job for Amway.
Yeah.
A company that had products that they would try to sell, and they had motivational.
It was a pyramid gimmick, right?
Yeah, and they had motivational tapes to get rich schemes.
Right. Yeah, and he bought into all that.
Oh yeah.
He wanted to read all that and listen to every one of those motivational things he could get, and he started using this practice to start working on picking up women.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That they met in bars, and they got fairly successful with this.
Yeah, because he's pretty good, pretty slick.
Yeah. But Paul, he got to where he was into some humiliating stuff on his dates.
Yeah.
He would start engaging in aggressive anal intercourse with his women.
Yeah, he would just kind of humiliate them even in public, doing,
Degrading them and stuff.
Yeah, and then get a little rough in the bed.
And in his relationships, he became increasingly violent and unstable.
Yeah.
And his partners were threatened with death if they told anybody about this abuse.
Right. Keep your mouth shut on McKee.
Yeah.
Basically.
And in 1986, Paul was served with restraining orders by 2 women after he made obscene phone calls.
Imagine that.
Yeah.
And so he's just turned out to be an outstanding young man.
Yeah, he was just he lived up to his Boy Scout days.
Yeah.
Now, in October of 1987, Paul met a female by the name of Karla Holmoka.
Yep.
And he met her at a Howard Johnson's motel.
Yeah, Karla was in town at this point. She was working for a pet store, and they had a big pet store convention in Scarborough, and her and some coworkers all went to this thing, and basically for the convention, but her and her friend, they basically went to party, is what she said.
But Karla was 17 years old at the time, Dale.
Correct, yes.
Yes. And they seemed to share an intimate attraction, and she got to liking Paul's sadistic sexual behavior.
Well, they hit it off right away. They talked for about 30 minutes and then went up to the hotel room, all 4 of them, her friend, Paul and his friend, and right away Karla and Paul jumped on the bed and just started making out and were all over each other right in front of them.
Tearing each other's clothes off.
Yeah, and other people was like, really, you're going to do this? Because if you don't want to watch, you can leave and shut the light off. And I'm like, damn.
Yeah.
I believe I'd just go back to the bar and let them have it. But, yeah, so it was just that quick that they were at it and seemed pretty much most of that night. I figure they continued on.
Mm-hmm. But we're going to get back to Karla in just a little bit and talk a little bit more about her. But we're going to talk some more about Paul and some stuff that he had going on, Dale.
Yeah, at this time, or actually a little bit before this and then back up to that time.
Yeah, but between 1987 and 1990, Paul had committed some serial rapes in and around Scarborough.
Yeah.
And he attacked most of his victims after stalking them after they got off buses late in the evening.
Yeah, he didn't figure it out. That was the best way to do it.
Yeah. Going through some of these, one of his rapes happened on May the 4th of 1987. This was a rape of a 21-year-old Scarborough woman in front of her parents' home. And this is when Paul had followed her home.
Yeah, right in her yard. They said it lasted about 30 minutes. I'm like, damn.
Yeah. And just 10 days later, on May the 14th of 87, Paul committed the rape of a 19-year-old woman in her backyard of her parents' house.
It's crazy, man.
Mm-hmm. So just giving some information on Paul and what kind of person he is. July the 17th of 1987, there was an attempted rape of a young woman, and he beat her, and Paul abandoned the attack when she fought back.
Right.
So lucky for her.
Yeah, I think that's true.
September the 29th of 87, there was an attempted rape of a 15-year-old girl. This is when Paul broke into the victim's home and entered her bedroom. He jumped on her back and put his hands over her mouth.
Yep.
And threatened her with a knife.
Right.
Bruised the side of her face and bit her ear. And Paul fled when her mother entered the room and screamed.
Right.
But there was another guy that was actually wrongfully convicted of this assault in 1989 and served a 16 months prison sentence, but was exonerated.
Years later.
Yeah, years later.
Yeah, Anthony Hannemeyer.
Yeah.
That'd suck there.
Yeah, serving time in prison.
Yeah.
But good for him that he was exonerated.
Right, definitely.
Yeah, the same year, December the 16th.
This will be, we're caught up now to kind of where they met. So he's still doing this even after he met Karla. They met Karla in October 87, and this is December 87.
Yeah.
Okay.
So after he had met Karla in October.
He continued his ways.
Yes. So in December 16th of 1987, there was a rape of a 15-year-old girl. The next day, the Toronto police issued a warning to the women in Scarborough, telling them not to travel alone at night, especially those riding buses.
Yeah, what the hell are we going to do then?
I mean, you got to get around.
Right. I mean, you can't have somebody ride the bus with you home, and then how are they going to get home?
Mm-hmm.
But, I get it.
Yeah, I guess just be aware of your surroundings.
Yeah, there you go.
Now, December the 23rd of 1987, just a few days later, there was a rape of a 17-year-old girl with a knife that Paul used to threaten his victims with. And at this point, he began to be known as the Scarborough Rapist.
Well, I don't know if he wasn't known as the Scarborough Rapist, but...
Yeah, that's what they dubbed him as.
Yes.
Yeah. Now, the following year, this was a few months had passed, on April the 18th of 1988, there was attack reported of a 17-year-old girl. Don't know who it was or what happened, but there was a report of attack in and around Scarborough. Yeah,
it's pretty
ballsy.
Yes.
Yeah. Now, May the 25th of 1988, Paul was nearly caught by a uniformed police officer stalking out a bus shelter, and the police officer noticed him hiding under a tree and pursued him on foot, but Paul got away.
Yeah, he must have been fast.
He must have. Now, just 5 days later, on May the 30th of 1988, there was a rape of an 18-year-old woman in Mississauga, Ontario. This was about 25 miles southwest of Scarborough.
Right.
So we don't know if Paul did all these, but we're just reporting these rapes in and around the area.
I'm pretty sure.
Yeah.
Anybody taking his title.
Now, on October the 4th, this was a year after he met Karla.
So he took a little bit of a date.
Yeah.
So you jumped from May to October. Okay.
Yeah.
I'm just keeping up.
There was an attempted rape in Scarborough, and his intended victim fought him off, and Paul inflicted 2 stab wounds to her thigh and buttocks, which required about 12 stitches.
12 stitches in your butt.
Yeah, that's a lot, man. Yeah. Now, the next month, on November 16th, there was a rape of an 18-year-old woman in the backyard of her parents' house.
That's what's ballsy as hell to me. I mean,
right there in the yard, man.
In the yard.
Mm-hmm. So this time, after they've gave this guy the Scarborough rapist name and moniker, the police had formed a task force to capture this guy.
It took them long enough.
It did. And on December 27th of 1988, there was an attempted rape with a neighbor chasing Paul off. I guess she fought him off and he got away.
There's probably another one in the yard, you think?
Probably.
Hey, what y'all doing over there?
Yeah. You know, I don't know, unless people had fenced-in backyards.
Yes, I don't know. It's just, to me, I guess you're thinking, what you know, it's just somebody's big front yard and somebody just going at it in the front yard.
But it seems like he gets more and more brave with all this.
Yeah, more brazen, yeah.
The next year, I mean, he took about a 6-month time off. June the 20th of 1989.
Well, you remember, this is now the time that he's also dating Karla, but she don't know about none of this, so depending on what they were doing, and we'll get back to that. We'll back up and start there, but we just want to give you what's going on in the meantime.
Yeah, in the Scarborough area.
Right.
Oh yeah, on June 20th of 1989, there was an attempted rape, and the young woman fought back, and her screams alerted some neighbors.
Yeah.
And Paul fled with scratches on his face.
Yeah, she got him good.
Yeah. And August the 15th of 1989, there was a rape of a 22-year-old woman that was reported. And then in November of 89, there was a rape of a 15-year-old girl that Paul saw at a bus shelter.
Man.
So, yeah. In December the 22nd of 1989, there was a rape of a 19-year-old woman. So, in and around Scarborough, man, it's going on. I mean, there's some...
Yeah, if he was between 15 and 20, look out.
But we got to remind people, too, that, and we'll remind people later, that Paul loved the younger women.
Yeah.
He had a fascination for them.
Yeah.
Now, the following year, on May the 26th of 1990, there was a rape of a 19-year-old woman, and the victim's recollection of her attacker enabled the police to create a computer composite portrait,
right,
which was released 2 days later by the police and publicized in the Toronto and surrounding areas. In July 1990, 2 months after police received tips that Bernardo resembled the Scarborough rapist, and he was interviewed by 2 police detectives.
Yeah, I think most of the time when he attacked these women, he always attacked them from behind and would put his hand around their throat and hold a knife to them and then do what he was doing from behind, to keep from being seen. Except for this one girl, I guess she got a good look.
But we've got pictures of Paul, and we've got a picture of this composite that was done, and man, he looks just like it.
Yeah, even his friends was like, "Man, this looks just like you."
Yeah,
and he was like, about just going on with it, but he was slick.
Yeah. So we're going to talk a little bit about Karla Holmoka.
Okay.
Now, Karla Leanne Holmoka was born on May the 4th of 1970. So she was a little bit younger than Paul.
She was a lot younger than him.
Yeah.
I think he was 23 and she was 17 when they met.
Yeah. And she was born in Port Credit, Ontario, Canada, to Carl Holmoka and Dorothy Seeger.
Yeah.
Now, her father, Carl, was a Czechoslovakian immigrant, and he worked as a traveling salesman.
He was an alcoholic as well.
Yeah. and he often fought with their mother, Dorothy.
Yeah.
They got in some brutal fights. But Karla had two younger sisters, Tammy and Lori.
Mm-hmm.
But during Karla's younger years, she enjoyed drawing and she loved animals. But she was very smart, Dale.
Yeah, she was very smart.
Yeah, third grade.
Yeah, she in third grade she had an IQ test and come back at 131, which put her in the 98th percentile.
Smart
the
kid,
top
man.
98, yeah.
Smart kid. But she loved playing with animals and she loved playing with her Barbie dolls. And it was reported one time that she had invited a friend over to play with Barbie dolls.
Mm-hmm.
And when the friend got there, Karla had everything set up.
Yep.
Of what they were going to do and how they were going to play with their Barbies.
Yeah, she pretty much had it all scripted out. It was like she had like, I don't know, 10 or 12 Barbies, and she knew what they were going to do, what they were going to say, how they acted, the whole 9 yards.
Yeah, and if the friend suggested another storyline or something to do with the Barbies, you know,
she just pack them up and say, we ain't playing.
Yeah.
So she said basically there was a play date that wasn't much of a play date.
Yeah, I'm going to take my Barbies and go home.
Yeah.
But during Karla's younger years, about the age of 12, she started reading some Hardy Boys and Nancy Drew mysteries. And she became obsessed with true crime.
Mm.
And as she grew up, she got a little bit more interested in the occult and the dark side.
Ooh.
Yeah.
This is some dark stuff.
Yeah, she started wearing dark clothes, wearing dark eye makeup, and even colored her hair different colors.
She went gothy on us.
She did. And during her high school years, she was known to be a nonconformist regarding fashion and gave the impression that she didn't care what other people thought of her.
Mm-mm.
And at one point, she dated a guy named Doug.
Doug.
Yeah, sorry, Doug. And admitted later on to experimenting with drugs, and they even had sex. She often fantasized about weird situations related to death and once attempted to cut herself with a knife.
Right. Yeah, well, she cut her. I think she was cutting herself and then, little false suicide attempts and some other stuff, probably trying to get a little attention during this emo phase.
I think I read she'd cut herself and put nail polish in the wounds.
Oh, that's smart.
Yeah. To like, I guess, tattoo them or something or mark them. Yeah.
I don't know.
Now, when Karla was in high school, she got a part-time job at a veterinary clinic, and then she graduated high school in 1988. And then after graduating high school, she was hired by the Thorold Veterinary Clinic as a full-time veterinary technician, which is pretty cool.
Mm-hmm.
Now, Karla and Paul, they were dating, and Paul was spending a lot of time over at Karla's house.
Yeah.
And the parents loved him.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. That was their weekend son, I think they said.
Yeah. He had a job as an accountant, and he had them boyish good looks, had the bleached blonde hair, had like that California look.
And he was smooth, man.
Yeah.
Like I said, he'd been wearing this mask of being happy and being since he was a kid. He always masked everything he did. Even though when shit was going bad at home, he always had the outward portrayal of being happy and always smiling with the big dimples on his face, and everybody just loved him.
Yeah. Wanted to pinch his cheeks.
Yep.
Yeah, and the family loved him. Like I said, they got along good with him, and he was just there with Karla.
Yeah, I think he lived about 2 hours away, so he was making the trek to come over and see her, all up. So
yeah,
it's a long way.
And I'm sure that he may have stayed the weekend.
Yeah, I think for sure that's what he was doing.
Staying the weekend there at the house.
Yeah. Yeah, which is kind of odd to me. She's 17, he's 23. Ain't happening in my house.
No, but now keep in mind that during all this time, Paul was committing some crimes. He was committing some rapes and stuff on young girls.
Oh yeah.
And by 1990, Paul had become increasingly obsessed with Karla's 15-year-old sister Tammy.
Yeah.
Yeah, he was spending a lot of time, like we said, with the Holmoka family.
Right.
And he would often flirt with Tammy.
Yeah, at this point he was also kind of starting to control Karla a good bit. He would come and when he was coming up there, he was kind of taking over her life a little bit, deciding what she should wear and how she could style her hair and what she should eat and what she should believe, and calling her fat and ugly and just starting to get in there a little bit and take control over her thoughts. Really, he's kind of really manipulating her.
Yeah,
pretty strong here.
Yeah, but Paul, I think he resented the fact that Karla had a former boyfriend named Doug.
Karla was used goods.
Yeah.
That's what he kept telling her.
And he
'Cause
didn't.
She wasn't a virgin.
Exactly.
So she was already used goods.
Yeah.
And he would even come in and give her a self-improvement list of stuff she should do. And he usually submitted her and, encouraged, should make her kind of encourage his sexual activity.
Yeah, exactly.
If that makes any sense. He's kind of like making her do what he wanted to do, but without seeming though he was doing it.
And she was wanting to do anything to please this guy.
Yeah, she didn't want to lose nothing. This was her dream come true. It was her kin to her Barbie.
And keep in mind, she wanted to do anything to please this guy.
Yeah.
And, yeah. Whatever it took.
Yep.
Yeah. But like I said, he resented the fact that she wasn't a virgin, them being together.
Yeah. Now, they had sex all the time, but he always would drop that on her that she was used goods.
Exactly. So that's when he became fascinated with her younger sister.
Yes.
Who was 15, Tammy.
Mm-hmm.
And this is when he would tell Karla to do something to her window blinds. I think break the blinds so he could peer in at Tammy from the outside.
Yeah, whatever he asked, she did.
Yeah.
Like he was a voyeur, he was a peeping Tommy. he would stand outside or go in there and look, and he's like, "What are you doing?" So like, "Well, I'm watching Tammy. To watch her undress, watch her sleep, do whatever." And when it got to where he couldn't see, he had Karla go in and break the blinds, like you said, so he could still see in. And he would stand outside her room and masturbate in the yard. And then sometimes Karla would help him.
Yeah.
So it's that deep of manipulation going on.
Yeah. All right, Dale. Now, during this time, they did that composite sketch of, it was a composite computer rendering.
Yes.
And it looked just like Paul, and people reporting that it looked like Paul, so they went to him and got to talking to him. The authorities did, and they brought him in, and they were very impressed with him.
Yeah.
They were saying that him being an accountant and just a nice young man, and
he had a serious girlfriend.
He didn't fit the profile of what they were looking for.
Yeah, he just wouldn't do something like this.
No, so they let him go.
Yeah, well, they came in, but actually before they let him go, they asked him if he would volunteer a DNA sample.
Yeah,
and he said sure. He gave them whatever he wanted to do, and I think he gave them blood, hair, and saliva or whatever. They got it all. But also at this time, they had submitted more than 130 other people's samples for DNA testing. And at this point in Ontario, they only had one person that could do these tests. So it was going to take a while. But, yeah, he did come in, and he really smoothed them over and told them what they wanted to hear, gave them a sample, and he left.
Mm-hmm.
Just like that.
Yeah.
So that was on...
but he even admitted that he resembled the composite.
Yeah. And he said that all of his friends teased him about it, and thought it was funny. He said, I just don't think it's funny at all. But if you look at it, you could tell it's him.
Yeah.
God almighty. And that was on November 20th of 1990.
Yeah.
They only kept him for 35 minutes.
Yeah.
So that'd tell you that he talked his way right out of that.
They weren't interested in him at all.
No. Mm-mm. Especially, he gave up, the samples and everything. So it was just kind of like, well, on to the next one.
But like we said, Paul, he had this fascination with Karla's younger sister, Tammy. And like we said, she was wanting to please Paul in any way.
Mm-hmm.
So she decided that she was going to give Tammy's virginity to Paul.
Well, Paul talked her into this. I think.
I think so too.
He just kept on and on and on, and she was just so afraid he was going to leave.
Yeah, like it was her virginity to give.
Right.
Yeah.
What can I do to make him happy?
So I'm going to give you my 15-year-old sister's virginity.
Yeah.
So they hatched a plan.
Yep.
For Paul to take her virginity.
Yep. Yeah, and he's like, well, she don't have to know it,
Mm-hmm.
She's like, we can't do this. You're crazy. Well, she don't have to know it. So that's when they come up with a plan to lace her. She always made Tammy spaghetti, so she was going to lace her meal with some Valium that she stole from the veterinary office.
Yeah.
So that's what they did. She put a bunch of Valium in her spaghetti, and then Tammy ate it. And of course, after a little bit, she passed out. And so Paul starts to rape her. Within a minute or so, she wakes up.
Yeah.
So
it didn't happen.
The plan has been foiled. Yeah. So it didn't happen. Mm-hmm. So she thought, well, maybe that'll be okay, but then it didn't. He just kept on. It didn't slow him down a bit. Actually, it made it worse, I think.
Yeah, he was determined to take her virginity.
Yeah.
And the second attempt to do this was on December the 23rd of 1990.
Mm-hmm.
This was following a Christmas dinner at the Holmoka family home.
Right. And one part we've left out a little bit of this is that Paul was he was a music guy. He was aspiring to be a rapper and do music, but he also was aspiring to be a filmmaker, and he always had his handy video camera with him.
Yeah.
And constantly was making movies and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
And then there was reports that were, they would do anything and whatever. He was filming. He was constantly filming everything. So Christmas dinner was nothing different. He was filmed the whole thing, one of them, hanging around the Christmas tree and everything, the whole family,
having a good Christmas.
Yeah.
But later that evening, the family, the parents, they went to bed.
Right.
And down in the basement, Tammy and Paul were hanging out and having some drinks and stuff, and they asked 15-year-old Tammy to join them to hang out with them.
Yeah, and her parents that night had gave them, her permission to have a drink or two, just celebrate, even though she was only 15. And so, like you said, they went upstairs, went to bed, and Tammy and Paul was going to go down to the basement and invite her to come hang out with them. And of course, she was pretty smitten for Paul too. There was lots of cases where they would be somewhere and sitting down, and Tammy would come run in, jump on Paul's lap, and hug him and go, "Look, don't you think I'm prettier than Karla? I'm younger than Karla, blah, blah, blah." I mean, just running up, and it would kind of eat up Karla a little bit, and she was trying to hold back, but she'd also tell her to get the hell away from him, when Paul wasn't around, because she was a little jealous.
Yeah.
But at the same time, her feelings to keep Paul happy was over everything else.
Exactly. But while the parents were sleeping upstairs, they spiked Tammy's drink with some sleeping pills.
Yeah, Halcyon.
Yeah. And then once she was unconscious, they undressed her, and Paul got out his camera.
Yep.
And started to video.
And then he ordered Karla to get some halothane that she had stolen from work, which is anesthetic.
Yeah, this is used on animals too,
for
put them to
animals.
sleep.
And it's supposed to be administered through a breathing tube, mixed with oxygen, but she didn't have none of that, so they just put it on a rag, hold on her face.
Yeah, which is very, I guess, toxic to the skin.
Yeah, and it could be deadly. This stuff was supposed to be meant as instructed, otherwise it could be very deadly.
Mm-hmm. But Paul was videoing all this, and they were keeping Tammy unconscious.
Mm-hmm.
And Paul was videoing this, and he even forced Karla to rape her own sister.
Yeah.
Yeah, which was sick, man.
Yeah, and then on the videotapes that came out later, like I said, there's a lot of stuff where it says it looked like she was openly, joining in, but that's up to
interpretation.
Everybody's interpretation. Because, some people say she did, some people say she don't, and then I watched the movie Karla, which you know how that movies are. But in that movie, it's like this part here, he orders her to go down on her sister, to be quite frank. And she's like, "I'm not doing that." And so he just smacks the shit out of her, starts beating her, and so you don't mess up my movies. You do what I say, and that's the way it's going to be.
This is how much control Paul had over her.
Right. So then, and it's always, you got, I guess, about four sides of this story. You don't never know who to believe and what's going on. But it kind of seems that way to me. He would just beat shit out of her, and she would do what he said.
Yep.
So in all the movies, it looks like she's, right on board with everything, whether she is or not.
Yeah. And then when Karla was done, she took the video camera and videoed Paul raping her sister Tammy.
Yes.
Yeah.
While holding a rag on her face.
Yeah.
To make sure she didn't wake up like she did the first time. That was the whole point of that.
But then Tammy began to vomit and stopped breathing after Karla held her down to clear her throat. And they tried to revive Tammy. And they got her dressed again and moved her to her room.
Yeah, they couldn't revive her. They were trying to wake her up, but they couldn't. So she called 911.
They cleaned up the evidence and everything.
Yeah, and told them to come, that Tammy, her sister, wasn't breathing. So meanwhile, while they were waiting for them to come, they cleaned up the evidence, cleaned her up, put her clothes back on, then took her upstairs and put her in bed.
Yep. And as a result of this halothane, Tammy had a chemical burn on her face.
Yes.
A big red splotch. And you can Google this. You can Google Tammy Holmoka, her autopsy photo, and you can see that red burn mark, chemical burn mark, man. It's brutal.
Yeah, they tried to play it off as like it was a rug burn from where they were trying to put her back on her bed, or when they were doing something. They said it was a rug burn, but you can definitely tell it's not a rug burn.
Mm-mm.
It's pretty rough.
Yeah. And they even ruled this as an accident, man.
Yeah.
They didn't even question it. I don't even think they done any toxicology on this little girl.
I don't think so either.
They just said they were all down there drinking and it got out of hand and Tammy drunk too much and got to vomiting and choked on her vomit.
Well, in one case in there, they said that they were all watching movies, and Paul and Karla had fallen asleep watching the movies, and then they heard something. And when they heard it, looked up, it was Tammy sick, was throwing up, and then had choked on her own vomit.
Yeah.
So they had all the bases covered, and I don't know why they believed it, but they did.
Yeah, they bought it. And even at the funeral, Paul was even caught stroking Tammy's hair as she was laying in the casket.
Yeah, weirdo.
And there was a 1993 exhumation, and it revealed that the couple had also placed a photo of theirs in the casket.
Yeah.
And we got that photo we'll post on our socials too, which is pretty damn creepy, man. It was them like smiling, laughing, having a good time.
Yeah, here, take us with you.
Yeah. But after the funeral, the Holmoka family, they didn't want Paul around anymore.
No.
They were grieving, and they just wanted just close-knit family there at the home. So Paul was told to keep his distance.
Yep.
Yeah.
So he left, and she went with him.
Yeah, they moved out.
After Karla and Paul had moved out to Port DeHalsey, they had their own place, so there was lots more freedom to do stuff they wanted to do, especially
do their fantasy stuff.
Their fantasy stuff and role playing and, of course, movie making, because that was his deal. Everything they did was filmed. I mean, around the house, anywhere they went, and everything they did, including any sexual activities, everything was filmed, which is weird to me.
Mm-hmm.
But anyway, so they did there, and there was even things came up later where Karla would actually role play being her sister.
Yep.
She would come in actually wearing some of Tammy's clothes and talking about coming to talk to Paul and telling him how she wanted him to take her virginity, and
talking in Tammy's voice too.
Yeah, that she loved him and all this stuff, and I really hope Karla don't find out. I mean, she was really juicing it up.
Yeah.
For the camera, So even as going as far as taking a rose and running all over Paul's body, and I mean all over Paul's body, and then saying we'll take this later and put it on her grave.
Yeah.
Knowing it's being everywhere that you were for her.
God.
So yeah. So they were getting into some pretty creepy stuff and filming everything. So they're just escalating more now.
Yeah.
To his appetite just will not be satisfied. And she thought, after doing that everything would be happy and he would be back into her. But that is not true.
Just keep in mind too that during all this time, Paul and Karla, they were a serious couple and they gotten engaged.
Yeah, I think wasn't that at Niagara?
Yeah, they did.
That he proposed to her,
and
then their wedding was supposed to be sometime that next summer, I think.
Yeah, like 6 months later.
6 months out, yeah.
Yeah.
So while proposing to her, and I think part of that came up too. It's like, well, why are you wanting to do this and be with her? Speaking of Tammy, he's like, you're still going to marry me, right? I mean, that's all she was worried about. And he's like, of course I'm going to marry you. I love you. I just want to fuck her.
Yeah.
That was his quote.
That was,
I was going to say we don't say that often, but that's what he said. So he said that's why, and he kept trying to get her to get with Tammy, and that was, before they had moved out here. Now, on June 7th, 1991, Karla had invited one of her co-workers to go out on like a girls' day.
Yeah, she was a teenager.
Yeah, she
15
was
years
15,
old.
Yeah. So how she was working, I don't know. But anyway, she was working at the vet office with her, and they was going to go out and have dinner and, do some girl stuff, whatever. And
shopping.
Go shopping, hang out on the nails, that kind of gimmick. And then decided to, ask her, how about you'd like to come back to our place for a couple of drinks? And so the girl says, sure. So they go home, and of course, Tammy spikes her drinks. And
this girl never drunk before.
Right. And then so Tammy spiked her drinks, giving her halcyon laced drinks, and then she calls Paul and says, how about you come on home and have a surprise wedding gift for you?
Now, halcyon is just a sleep aid to help insomnia.
Yeah.
It's pretty strong.
Strong, yes. So Paul runs straight home. Guess what? They get out the video camera.
Yep.
And the two rape her.
Yeah.
And the next day, the girl wakes up with extreme nausea and don't know what she's going, feeling like crap, even though she doesn't realize she's being raped. Now, on how she don't realize she's being raped, but that was the story.
Yeah.
And then she's thinking, damn, that alcohol really kicked my ass.
Yeah, she'd never drunk before, so yeah, I guess she didn't know.
Yeah, that'd be
what to expect.
Yeah. So she just left, and then in August she was invited over again, and she came back over.
Yeah, this girl has never been identified. She's just known as Jane Doe.
Right. So she came back over, even though all this was filmed, and it all came out later. But she still, they still kept her identity hid. She came back over, and they done the same thing again. But this time, almost the same thing happened to Tammy. She stopped breathing during the rape, and so Karla had called 911 to have them come, and then Jane Doe come back too. She was being revived.
Yeah.
So they just call back and say, never mind, everything's good. So the ambulance just turns around and goes back. They don't come and check on it or nothing.
That must be a Canada thing, because even in the United States, if you call 911, they coming out.
They coming.
If you call and say no, they coming.
Yeah, even if your kid calls is being funny or don't realize what they're doing, they're coming.
Yeah.
Yeah. That happened to one of my daughters when she was young.
She called 911?
Yeah. For something silly, and yeah, they came.
Yeah, they show up, man.
They don't take that, lightly.
No.
So here they go. They're escalating a little more. They've then raped this girl twice and almost killed her.
Yeah.
So things are getting a little crazy.
Yeah, and this girl is none the wiser, man.
Yeah, that kind of blows my mind. You would think you'd know if something like that happened to you.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not a lady, so I don't know, but I'm just thinking you would think something's different.
Yeah. Why am I? Yeah.
Yeah, you know what I mean.
Yeah, I got you.
Without getting too in the weeds. But anyway, there's a lot more to go.
Must be. Yeah, there's a lot more to this. But at this point, Dale, we're going to call this the end of part 1.
Okay.
Because we got a lot more to get into with Paul and Karla. And we wanted to do this justice to cover these two and all their stuff they get into.
Yes. Yeah, because it gets a little more out there.
Yeah. And
there are no signs of slowing down here, folks.
No, it's not. It gets worse.
Yeah.
But that's the end of part 1. We'll be back next week with part 2.
Yep. Hope you enjoyed that, and it's going to get crazy.
All right. We're going to get out of here, bud.
Let's roll.
We want everyone to be safe. Please be careful and always be aware of your surroundings.
Because the next episode could be about you.
This is the Crack House Chronicles. Welcome to the Crack House Chronicles, your favorite true crime podcast. I am Donnie, and with me is a man that wants everyone to know that a good day at work can be wiped out by one slow driver on the highway. It's Dale.
No shit, especially trying to get home in a hurry.
It seems like you can just be in a hurry to go somewhere, and there's somebody going to be pulling out in front of you.
Every time, and then turn 15 feet.
Yeah.
Slam on brakes and stop, and then pull out in front of you and turn. Man,
and you get all up in the rear end, they just driving along like it's a Sunday afternoon or something.
No doubt. They don't know. We try to go home.
Yeah, we on the way home, man.
And long work day, you ready to go home.
I don't understand that junk. I mean, do people not know they're allowed to go the speed limit?
I don't guess. They're trying to piss you off, I guess.
Yeah.
It works.
Well, it works.
Yeah, I'm telling you.
What's going on, bud?
Same old, same old.
Yep. I know about same old, same old.
It's our gimmick.
You got any good shout-outs? Anybody you want to talk about before we get going on this episode?
No, not really. But I do got... Just kidding. I do want to make a correction. Last week when we let me get my papers here, I'm wrestling. We made a little announcement about Rich, and it was actually his son's wife. So sorry about that, Jen. So it's actually Mason Adams, his wife Jen, which is Rich's daughter-in-law.
Yep.
But anyway, I was just looking over, and I see a good many of you guys have stepped up and thrown them a few dollars, man, and that's just awesome.
Yeah, we shared the link for their GoFundMe on our pages, and be on the lookout. We'll share it again and help these folks out a little bit. They're wanting to make a trip.
Yeah, jump on there and read the details just a little more than help me send me somewhere. So it's a pretty important thing, I think.
Yeah, they got a lot of stuff going on, and they need your help.
Yeah, fuck cancer.
That's exactly right.
All right, man.
But that's our shout out for today.
Yeah, because I'm sorry about that. And he said it wasn't no big deal and I have to do it, but I just felt like, whatever. It needs to be right.
Yeah, we try to make things right.
Yeah.
No doubt about it. We try.
Yep.
And if anybody wants to check out our store page, you can.
Yes, sir.
Buy something cool, help keep the lights on.
Get you some new stuff.
And if you want to go to Apple Podcasts, leave a rate and review. Like Dale says, you got to write something in the box.
That's right. We appreciate it, man. It means a lot. The more you do that, the more other folks can find it.
Yep, and the word of mouth stuff too, man. I can't believe the word of mouth stuff. People saying, "Hey, somebody told me about your podcast. I've been listening."
Yeah, and it's cool, huh?
It is very cool.
It's kind of flattering, really. I mean, it kind of blows my mind sometimes, but yeah, it's really cool.
It's very cool.
Thanks for you guys, and I'm glad you dig it.
Yeah, I dig it too.
Woo.
Yep, I sure do.
All right, then.
Other than that, we're going to get started on this episode.
Well, right back into the depths.
Yeah, this is our part 2 episode of the Ken and Barbie Killers, Paul Bernardo and Karla Holmoka.
Yes.
Where we left off on part 1, Dale, Paul had a fascination for Karla's younger sister Tammy, and they ended up drugging her, and she had the halothane, and she choked on her own vomit and
passed away.
Yeah, she did.
Yeah.
And then we talked a little bit about Jane Doe, who was a 15-year-old girl that worked with Karla.
Right.
And she had invited her back to her home and drugged her, and it was like a little pre-wedding present for Paul. And they abused this girl, and she just thought she was...
She woke up next morning feeling bad and just thought it was because she got drunk.
Yeah.
Because she never drank much, and they was really drugging her, and she was drinking and doing some drugs in her drinks, is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, that's what they were doing.
Yeah, so I guess she didn't figure out what everything else. I bet she probably didn't drink much of that.
But this episode starts on June the 14th of 1991.
Right.
And this is about a girl named Leslie Mahaffey. Just a little bit of background on Leslie Mahaffey. She was born on July 5th, 1976, and she was a resident of Burlington, Ontario, and she was a 9th grade student at M&M Robinson High School. And she had a brother, Ryan, and her father was an oceanographer, and her mother was a school teacher.
Yes.
But she was really close to her family when she turned 14, but she began to rebel a little bit, Dale.
Yeah.
And she spent some periods of time away from the home, and she would be prone to stay out at night and skip school. And
she didn't get hard-headed.
Yeah, she did at 14.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And her parents responded to this by, they were getting tough on Leslie when she broke the rules. And it was just this particular night on Friday, June 14th of 1991. This is when Leslie went out for the evening.
Right.
She went with some friends to a wake. They'd had a school friend of theirs who had died in a car crash.
Right.
His name was Chris Evans. But this particular night, Leslie had stayed out way past her curfew.
Mm-hmm.
And it was at 2 a.m. She had found herself locked out of the house.
Yep. Not good.
No, huh? And her parents told her that if they missed the curfew, they were going to lock the doors and she couldn't get back in.
And that's what they did.
Yeah, they did. So she had called a friend of hers to ask her if she could spend the night.
Well, she walked down the street to use the payphone.
Okay.
And called her.
Okay, that's right.
Yeah.
But this girlfriend of hers...
for some reason, she couldn't come over.
Well, yeah, she didn't think her mother would allow her, at that hour at night anyway.
Right. Yeah.
People coming over at 2 a.m. So Leslie told her friend that she was going to go back home to wake up her parents.
Or try to find a way in without waking them up.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But Leslie had actually gone back to her home to see if there was any way to get in without waking her parents. But this was when the worst possible luck could happen.
Yeah.
This is when she encountered Paul Bernardo.
Yep.
And Paul was out that night. He was prowling around the neighborhood. What he was doing was looking for some license plates to steal.
Right. He was doing his smuggling of cigarettes.
Yeah.
So he would always change his license plate on his car so they wouldn't trace it back to him.
Yeah. And he'd come upon Leslie out in her yard, and they'd had struck up a conversation, and she had asked him if he had a cigarette. He told her that he had one back in the car. So she followed him back to the car, and this is when it's been reported different ways. Some said that he blindfolded her, but there was another...
Well, it's the same difference. He came up behind her, and he said he put his sweatshirt over her head.
Yeah.
So it's the same thing, just saying it different ways.
Yeah.
And that's probably what happened. I would say he said, "Sure, they're right there on the seat," And when she walked ahead, I'm not saying this is how it happened, but in my head, this is how it happened.
Mm-hmm.
And she walked over, when she opened the door to his car, he had already taken the sweatshirt off behind her and just put it over her head, pulled a knife to her, and put her in the car.
Forced her to get in the car.
Yes.
Yep. And this is when he took Leslie back to their home.
Yep.
And Karla was asleep.
She was.
Yep. And he'd tied up Leslie and stripped her down, and this is when he began to videotape Leslie. She was 14 years old, naked and blindfolded. And a little bit later, Karla had woke up.
But at first she just woke up and went down to see what was going on, and when she saw what it was, she just went back to bed.
Yeah, he just had a woman.
Right.
Yeah.
Oh, well, that's what the commotion was.
That's what he does.
Right. And then the next morning when she got up, that's when she was going to walk the dog.
Yeah, and when she did, she got pretty pissed off because that's where she had saw that Paul had used their best champagne glasses.
Yeah, she said she had some fancy ones they had gotten from France.
Yeah.
And they didn't even use them.
Mm-mm.
So she didn't get pissed off about the fact that he had kidnapped a girl and had her downstairs raping her. She was mad that they used their glasses.
Yeah. Used these champagne glasses to entertain his new little toy he had.
Yes.
Yeah. But Karla finally came around and started being the obedient wife that Paul was sort of demanded on her.
Well, yeah. And, I think a little bit in the first part, it sounded like I was really taking up for Karla a lot, and I'm not doing it on purpose, but I just think a lot of times she's being obedient because she didn't have a whole lot of choice.
Mm-mm.
But then again, she may have done a lot more,
Yeah.
I just didn't want to seem like I was taking up for her too much. I'm not trying to be, we try to be, unbiased here. Go each way.
Just put it this way, Karla could have left at any moment.
Yeah.
Right. But I think her thing was that she wanted to please Paul and did not want to be without him.
Right.
And she wanted to keep him at all cost.
Yeah.
And make him happy.
True.
Yeah. So we're just putting that in there.
Yeah. So all that mixed together.
So, yeah, there's a lot. Yeah. But this is when Paul gave Karla specific instructions on how she should make love to Leslie.
Mm.
And he was trying to be
he was quite the movie maker, wasn't he?
Yeah, he was being a director for his movies. And to him, it was an important film because every moment had to be perfect for the videotape.
Otherwise, he would pause and beat you into submission and then start again.
Yep.
Yeah.
And he would video Karla doing things to Leslie, and which was kind of like a foreplay for him. And it's kind of like a prelude, he would call it. And after all that was done, Paul, that's when he went in for the rough stuff, while Karla held the camera. And he would do all kinds of things to Leslie, anal penetration. The rough stuff just escalated.
Yeah, just not good.
Not good at all.
Yeah, it was like 24 hours too.
Yeah.
I mean, just, and they had given her a big teddy bear to hold on to during their breaks. I mean, damn.
Yeah.
So I think on this one, after they had her blindfolded and brought in whatever and did all this stuff, another time when he was having her have Karla go in there with her, Leslie's blindfold came off.
And she saw both of them?
And she saw both of them.
Yeah.
So they all freaked out. So then it's like, well, we was going to let her go, but now we definitely can't. So he ended up killing her.
Yes.
And then some things say that she thought she just died from being under a lot of drugs, but I think it was some drugs and he strangled her.
Yeah. But this one, they moved her from the bedroom down to the basement.
Yeah.
They had her in the basement, and they just went upstairs and got ready and got showered and got ready because that evening her parents were coming over for a Father's Day dinner.
Yeah, that's why they had to move her to the basement.
Yeah. Yeah, we don't want a body upstairs with this special Father's Day. Yeah.
Crazy.
But when the family left, this when Paul and Karla used his grandfather's circular saw, and they dismembered Leslie's body.
Man, a circular saw would have to make so much mess.
You got that right. But they cut her body up into small pieces, and they encased it in concrete.
Yeah, he had figured out that's what they were going to do because she was flipping out about how they're going to get her out, and he goes, I got it figured out. So he went to the store and bought a bunch of bags of concrete, like 12 bags or something, 10 or 12 bags, depending on which source you listen to. And came back and that sawed her up, and then he made little forms like out of 2x2s or 2x4s, I mean. And then he would pour some semen in there and throw the body parts in there, and ended up having 5 big concrete blocks.
Yeah.
That was encasing all this young lady.
Her body parts, yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. And that's when they took these concrete blocks and they dumped it into Lake Gibson.
Yeah.
This is near St. Catharines, Ontario.
Mm.
So after this, there's a good little time passed because June the 29th, this was the big wedding day, Dale.
Mm-hmm.
June 29th of 1991. This is when Paul Bernardo and Karla Holmoka, they got married.
Sure did.
Yep, they had a really lavish wedding.
Storybook, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yes.
Their wedding had to be perfect.
Perfect.
For Paul, yeah.
He should have been Perfect Paul.
Yes, that's what his name should have been.
Yeah.
It was held at the historic church in Niagara-on-the-Lake, and they had white horses and a carriage.
Wow.
Yep.
He went all out, didn't he?
Yeah, had champagne and a sit-down dinner for 150 guests, and they had veal stuffed pheasant at Queen's Landing, and no expense was spared. But the wedding was controlled by Paul. Every detail of it was controlled by him. Yeah.
That's odd, isn't it?
Yeah.
Well, not for him, but in normal situations.
Yeah. Even Karla's wedding gown, which at the time cost $2,000, and everything had to be just like he wanted. Even Karla's hairstyle, to the menu the meal they had, to the inclusion of love, honor, and obey in their vows.
Yeah, and even he instructed the minister to make sure he said man and wife and not husband and wife.
Oh, yeah. He made sure of that.
Yeah.
Paul was even quoted saying later, after everything went down, that it was going to be a grand wedding, then people could be expected to donate money and gifts on a similarity grand scale. But, Paul, he viewed this wedding as a process of a great business opportunity.
Money-making scheme.
Yeah. He was even quoted saying, if I spent $50 a plate, I expect to get $100 in person. That's what he's going to.
So he's figuring if you coming over and I'm feeding you $50 worth of food, you should leave me $100.
Yeah, I guess him being an accountant, that's just his way of thinking things.
Mm.
Yep. He even told them he set a goal of realizing about $50,000 from the wedding, be able to make off of it. Yeah, he's crazy, man.
Never heard anybody trying to make money off the wedding.
Yeah. But, yeah, he was going to.
Yeah.
But they ended up going to Hawaii on their honeymoon.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. And while there, Paul even wanted to kidnap a girl.
Yeah, he did.
For their honeymoon.
Yeah, she thought that once they got married, maybe he would tune down a little bit, but hell, he didn't even wait till they got back from honeymoon.
He was fired up even more.
He was fired up there, yeah.
But I think Karla had, made it to where they didn't kidnap anybody there. At least it wasn't reported in anything.
And while they were there is when he finally admitted to her that he was the Scarborough rapist.
Yeah.
And she said, this was the worst day of my life.
Yeah.
Not to mention just done killed these people, done all this raping and pillaging. But when he admitted to her on their honeymoon that he really was the rapist, it just was the worst thing.
It just ruined her life, didn't it?
What the hell?
Her sister done died and then killed another girl, put her in block.
Yeah. Sawed her up with Grandpa saw. Oh, that's okay.
Jeez, man.
So far, what really has pissed her off is this. He had told her this while they was on their honeymoon, and they used her champagne glasses.
Yeah. Dang, dude.
Priorities, brother. Gotta have them. Gotta have them.
Yep. But also, on the day they got married, on June the 29th of 1991, this is when Leslie Mahaffey's body was found on their wedding day.
Yeah, Michael Doucette and his son Michael Jr. was fishing.
Yeah.
And they was looking around and they seen some blocks down. It said that the water where they put this thing, it gets really clear and then it goes up and down, the level of the lake.
Mm-hmm.
And it was down and they seen those things. And then they came back later, the dad and another guy, and so actually could see what it was.
Yeah.
Like a cement block with the calf and wasn't it the ankle?
Yeah, foot sticking out of it.
Foot sticking out of it.
Yeah.
Ooh.
Man, it looked like the foot of a young girl.
Yes.
Yeah. But like I said, this was in Lake Gibson near St. Catharines, Ontario.
Right. So once they got back from their honeymoon, you walk in and that's what everybody's talking about and they're freaking out.
Yeah. But they were able to identify Leslie's body from dental records.
Her braces, yeah. She had something about some unique braces that she had.
Yeah.
Also helped.
But they couldn't tell if she'd been molested or raped or or anything like that, or how she had possibly died. They couldn't tell.
Right.
Yeah, like Dale said too, they didn't know if they found all the blocks or not either.
They found a total of 5, but I'm not sure how many was actually thrown in.
Yeah.
Out of 12 bags of cement, he could have made a good many. And you'd think, I don't know how big these blocks were and how much body part you can put in a block to carry. It's
to be able to pick it up.
Pretty damn heavy, yeah.
Mm-hmm. That's probably why they wasn't far from the shore or wherever.
Yeah, how would you do it? I mean, he would have to just throw it,
heave it, and throw it in.
Unless it was like a pier or something there. I don't know.
Yeah.
And then hell, that don't look obvious, does it?
Yeah. But they said they found them in pretty shallow water when they were canoeing and fishing.
Right. And it being real clear, probably could just see it plain as day.
Probably could. Can you imagine seeing something like that?
Ooh, no.
Mm-mm. So there's a little time passes. There were reports of rapes and different things after Leslie's disappearance and her death, but none of it's been pinned on Paul
right
at that point. So we're going to move just a little bit ahead to April 16th of 1992.
Yes.
And this is when a girl by the name of Kristen French, she was walking home from Holy Cross Secondary School. This is a Catholic school in St. Catharines.
Yes. Well, they went out looking for a new
victim,
quote-unquote sex slave.
Yeah.
And they didn't have to go far. They was driving around the roads, and then they saw her, and that's the one he wanted. So they just drove on by and then turned into the parking lot of the church up above her and waited for her to come by.
Yeah, that's when Karla asked him, how do you like that one there? And he got all excited.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we've got, that's the one.
Yeah.
Yeah, so when they pulled up into the parking lot, Karla got out a map, and she was standing there, just kind of looking around, waiting. And when the girl walked up, she called her over and asked her if she could help her. And it being, a lady, she didn't really think nothing about it. Well, I use that lady term. Being a woman, I guess she didn't think nothing about it. So she walked straight up to see if she could help her.
And she had a map with her trying to find directions.
Right, yeah. She asked for some assistance. And
yes.
When she went up there to help her, and when she had her attention on the map, Paul came up behind her with his knife and forced her into the front seat of the car.
Yep.
Yeah. So then she was in the front, and Karla was pulling her hair from the back seat once they got in the car to hold her down, and then took her off to back to the house.
But this kidnapping was seen by several eyewitnesses.
Well, yeah, they said that they seen her with 2 other people.
Mm-hmm.
But the thing is, they thought when they told them that they saw them, they said they were driving a Camaro.
Yeah.
And it turned out they went full bore on looking for this Camaro, even using billboards and some other stuff, trying to find this Camaro.
It was a tan Camaro, I think.
Yeah, but the problem was it wasn't a Camaro.
It was a gold Nissan.
Yes.
Yeah. But
how they got those confused, I have no idea.
I don't either. But when Kristen French went missing, it drew immediate attention to her family and friends.
Yeah. And she was smart enough to kick off her shoe. Well,
yeah.
That's what we think. One of her shoes was in the parking lot, and I'm assuming that she was smart enough to kick it off. So when they come looking to see where she was, they notice the shoe's laying there.
Yeah.
So they know she's not just hiding somewhere or whatever. But did witness her seeing some people at this car.
That's right. Kristen was described as a smart girl, did everything she could to cooperate with Karla and Paul, and even their humiliating demands. And she believed that this cooperation was her only chance to survive.
Yeah.
But this ordeal, it got worse and worse, man.
It did.
Yeah, the more she cooperated, the more, I guess, sadistic Paul became.
Yeah, and they were making her drink large amounts of alcohol, and probably just make her submit even more. Torture, rape, sodomize her, doing everything.
Yep. She was urinated on, defecated on. Man, it was just
sick.
It was some sick shit going on, dude.
Yeah.
And he would begrade her. He would tell her she was a piece of shit.
Yep.
And told her that she looked good covered in piss. It was bad, dude.
It was very bad.
Yeah.
And then finally she just quit because she said, ain't nothing worth this.
Mm-mm. And they held her for 3 days.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think Paul, he actually took a liking to Kristen. And he was wanting to, I guess, keep her and make her his sex slave.
Yeah.
That's what had been reported. And I don't think Karla was taken to this too much, dude.
Yeah, I think she probably got a little jealous when she figured out he was wanting to keep her for a while.
Yeah.
Wasn't like the rest of them, where he was done and over it.
Yeah. But they did. They kept her for 3 days. And they would put her in front of the television, and she would see her family on TV begging for the captors to let her go.
Yeah.
Her dad's on TV crying. And I mean, I can't even imagine, dude, the torture this girl went through.
Yeah, and that's when, they, like I said, they was trying to make her do all this stuff, and then finally she just said to hell with it, and she said some things are just worth dying for, and I'm done.
Yeah. I can't even imagine, man.
Crazy. Sick people, man.
Mm-hmm. But while Kristen was missing, her classmates and her teachers and friends at the Holy Cross Secondary School chose the green ribbon of hope as a symbol for their search. And the school community also gave the name to the Green Ribbon of Hope campaign, a national campaign continued by the Child Find of Canada. So it's a pretty big deal, dude.
Yes, very much so.
Yeah. Paul and Karla were videotaping themselves torturing and subjecting 15-year-old Kristen French to sexual humiliation, degradation, while forcing her to drink large amounts of alcohol, like you said.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And this is all over Easter weekend.
Yeah.
So, like you said before.
Yeah, we were talking about this before we went on the air.
All these major, I guess I won't say milestones, but all these major things that they did, like her sister was on Christmas.
Yep.
And then Kristen was on Father's Day.
No, that was
I'm sorry.
Leslie.
When Leslie was on Father's Day.
Yeah.
And then this one here is on Easter. So it's like the holiday killers.
That's crazy, man.
Yeah, whether they meant it to be that way or not, I don't know. It's kind of odd, but I didn't even really think about it before till you mentioned it, and I was like, oh, wow. It is wild.
But it had been reported that Paul went to get him something to eat.
Right.
And during that time, it had been reported that Karla had killed Kristen.
Yeah, well, what the story was, he had left her this big rubber hammer to watch her.
Yeah.
And he was going to get him some food and stuff. But anyway, he said that Kristen was also, she had something bound around her neck, like some kind of leash or something. And she asked Karla if she would loosen it up a little bit. Now, this is what Karla said. If she would loosen it up a little bit so she could breathe better. And when she did, she tried to get away. And then she ended up choking herself to death with the thing around her neck. Well, his version of the story was that when he got home, she was dead, and Karla had beat her to death with a rubber hammer. Mm-hmm. So we don't really know which one's which. We just knew she was dead when he got back home.
Yeah, that's bad. But they'd
it's worse than that.
They'd cut her off her hair off.
Yeah, before. So apparently before, because they said that they'd cut all her hair off. They washed her and cut her hair off. But later, and they said even in the autopsy that some of her hair was found in her own stomach. So
she was forced to eat her own hair.
Apparently, I mean, how else would it get in there?
Yeah, how would it get there? Yeah.
So they had to mostly do that, I guess, when she was still living. And then once also the body had all the fingernails removed.
Yeah.
So their guess was, so in case there was skin or anything under the nails, it wouldn't be there.
Yeah. But just don't mean.
And I hope they took them off after she was passed away.
I hope so too. But I don't mean to jump ahead too much. But when they was researching all this and doing their investigation on this, they did find that Kristen had torn part of the map off to help identify herself, that the one that Karla had to help her, with the directions when they lured her into the car.
Right.
Yeah.
She tried.
Yep.
And then put up with a lot of shit.
Yep. But they had murdered Kristen French on April the 29th of 1992, and her naked body was found in a ditch along number 1 side road in North Burlington.
Yeah, which was not really far from where they found the girl in the lake.
Yeah, Leslie Mahaffey, yeah. But she was found on April the 30th of 1992.
So it's almost a year later.
Yeah. Sick, man.
Very.
But at this time, things between Paul and Karla were going downhill, dude.
Yeah, and we talked about this earlier. We was thinking, because nobody ever really say anything about what's going on here, but we was talking about maybe with the death of Kristen may have been what really put him over the edge, being pissed off at her, because like we said, we thought maybe he had taken a liking to her, and then Karla didn't like that. So maybe when he went to go get the food, maybe she did kill her. Mm-hmm. And then he's like, well, she died, blah, blah, blah. But he's kind of getting pissed off here. So their stuff fixing to start taking a serious nosedive, and the degree of violence is going to pick up on his end as far as putting her in her place and doing what he wants to do.
Exactly. Paul was using Karla as his punching bag, man.
Yes.
That's all it was. But Dale, by the summer of 1992, things between Paul and Karla were really going downhill, man. They weren't getting along. I think Karla was sort of pushing back against Paul and his things he was doing.
Right, and like we said, I think maybe it had something to do with the death of Kristen too, man, because, we seemed to think that he had taken a liking to her, and when he was going to go get the food and come back, and then she's dead, and Karla says she died because she choked herself to death, but he thinks she maybe killed him because of some other reason, and then their relationship's fixing to take a nosedive, and the abuse factor's fixing to up a lot, significantly. The level of violence is going to get pretty bad.
Yep. He took a flashlight and hit her in the head with it, and this actually caused her brain to shift inside of her skull, which gave her 2 black eyes.
Yeah, and he had done some other stuff, reported from some of her friends, that just to torture her a little bit, she had a pet iguana, and he ended up cutting its head off and throwing it on the grill, cooking it and eating it in front of her friends.
Yeah.
And then another time it was reported that he took a dump on a piece of bread and made her eat it.
A shit sandwich. Yeah.
So, I mean, what kind of dude is this?
He's a sick piece of shit, man.
Yes, very much so. And then, that when something happens when he took that metal flashlight and beat her he didn't beat her to death, but, he beat her pretty bad. Really, like you said, smashed her in the back of the head hard enough to make her brain shift to black both of her eyes.
Yep.
From the backside.
But in January of 1993, Karla's parents intervened, and they persuaded her to take refuge in the home of one of her sisters. This was Lori, whose husband was a Toronto cop. And the Niagara police were brought into the situation and took Karla to the hospital. Yeah. All this was before the Toronto police had any forensic evidence to convict Paul as the Scarborough rapist.
Right. Yeah, when she went to the hospital, she had claimed she had been in a car wreck.
Yeah.
Yeah.
In early February, when the police investigation of Paul intensified, both the Toronto police and the Ontario Green Ribbon Task Force that we talked about wanted to interview Karla. They also wanted to fingerprint her and question her about a Mickey Mouse watch that was very similar to Kristen French's watch. Yeah. And initially, several Toronto detectives interviewed Karla for almost 5 hours. By the kinds of questions they asked, Karla understood that the police had tied together some things about the Scarborough rapes.
Yep.
And with the murders in St. Catharines. And Karla was understandably nervous and told her uncle that Paul was the serial rapist and he had killed Kristen French and Leslie Mahaffey.
Yeah, she was kind of figured that the cops were getting close, so she's trying to get ahead of the game here.
Yeah.
So meanwhile, while this is going on, 26 months after Paul had first submitted his DNA, you remember he did that way back in part 1.
Yeah.
The Toronto police were informed that it matched that of the Scarborough rapist.
Yeah. So,
and they immediately placed him under 24-hour surveillance.
Wow.
Yeah, so it took that long do you think I know you can't go back in time, but if they could have got his DNA done, none of these girls would have died.
No.
Because he gave it to them a long time ago.
He offered it up, yeah.
Yeah. But it took him so long, 2 years. 2 years, 2 months to get it tested. Wow.
I know. But Karla got herself a real good lawyer.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
But she knew a lawyer. He had used to come in the pet store and bring his dog in where she worked, at the vet. I mean, not the pet store.
At the veterinary office.
So that she had known him for a while.
Yeah, they'd had treated a dog. It was a Dalmatian. It was actually a cancer-stricken Dalmatian. And the dog's owner was George Walker. And over a period of many interviews with Karla, George Walker realized that she was not necessarily the innocent victim of Paul Bernardo that she painted herself to be. Yet he didn't really understand at what point just what her role had been in these crimes, dude.
Right.
And some kind of immunity would have to be done for Karla.
Well,
for her to cooperate and to be able to get an arrest on Paul and to convict him.
Well, that's what she told her lawyer. If they want to know anything from me, and at this point, see, nothing's been found. They don't have no evidence or nothing. I think that's what she says.
Yeah, exactly.
And she said, if you want anything, then you're going to have to give me a deal.
That's right.
Right. So meanwhile, they already got the damn DNA sample on Paul, so they know he's the rapist. But they still don't know about the connection.
They hadn't tied all this together.
Right. To Mahaffey and French.
Yep. So in mid-February, Paul was arrested in conjunction with both the Scarborough rapes and the murders of Mahaffey and French.
Right.
But Karla was shocked and afraid.
Well, she was terrified.
Yeah.
And then when they went and searched the house, they found a tape that had Jane Doe on it, but they didn't find nothing else. And Karla had already told her lawyer and everybody that there were videotapes of all this.
Yes.
And, other than that, we just got to find them.
But they didn't find them when they searched the house.
No, they couldn't find them. And even she couldn't find them. And you just wondered if Paul got rid of them. And even the cops searched, I want to say it was 71 days they were in that house, searching and going through stuff, trying to find them. And they never did find those tapes. They found everything else but no tapes. And then they knew they had the one of Jane Doe or whatever. Well, once Paul hears that they found some tapes and finds out what's going on with her, he tells his lawyer where the other 6 tapes are.
Yes.
So he goes over to the house, and what they couldn't find in 70 days, he just walks right in and gets them. He had somewhere he had them hid in a light or a light fixture in the bathroom. Now, depending on if you've watched the movie, I don't know where it really was.
Almost behind a medicine cabinet light, like in the wall.
Yeah. And once they took the whole fixture out, and he could stick his hand up in there and get it. But, I don't know how much that it was in real life. I'm just saying on the movie, they changed everything to make it a little better. But yeah, so then, and he instructed his lawyer to do not watch those tapes, but go get them. And so he just takes them back and puts them up and don't do anything with them.
He holds on to them, yeah.
He don't tell prosecution that he's found them. He does nothing. He just holds on to them. Mm-hmm. And he leaves it that way for up to 3 weeks, and then he finally watches them.
Yeah.
He goes against Paul's wishes and watches them, and then he wishes he didn't. Talking about how bad it was.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So in exchange for this leniency, Karla would agree to tell the whole truth about her involvement in the crimes and everything she knew about them.
Right, but see, also, you got to think, nobody knows the tapes are in existence, or nobody knows the tapes.
So she got this deal before they knew about the tapes.
Right. So all they got is her side of the story.
Yeah.
Even though she said, yeah, I was there and I was involved. He was making me do this. He was making me do that. So you don't really know how bad it was until you actually see the tapes to see what she was actually doing. Mm-hmm. So at this point, nobody but the lawyer and Paul know that the tapes are safe.
Exactly.
And he ain't telling.
But and once they do this, once the Crown there in Canada does this deal, there's no backing up on it.
Right.
Yeah, they stick to whatever they decide to do.
Yeah.
So Karla's locked in on this plea deal, dude.
Right.
Yeah.
And she would receive a lesser sentence.
Yes.
In trade for her testimony.
Exactly.
Which basically gave her plea bargain, gave her 12 years. I think 12 years for each of the girls. And then at this time, her sister was still an accident, so she didn't get anything for that.
And they were to run concurrently, so all she had to serve was 12 years.
Right.
Yeah.
Now, one thing I saw said she got 10 years for each of the 2 murdered girls and 2 years for her sister, but I don't know if that's right or not. Everything else I've seen is just she would receive 12 years for
Leslie and
Kristen, yeah. When she would have to serve 12 years, but she would be eligible for parole in 3.
Yeah. But they were calling this the deal with the devil.
Right. And that the Canadian government forbid anybody to report on this. And the public was not made aware of this deal.
Mm-mm.
Nobody knew. And they didn't tell anything about what was going on. Basically, they said that way Paul would have a fair trial, but also everybody was keeping it hush-hush on this end. Because people be flipping the hell out.
Yeah. But at this time, Dale, this was a big trial going on in Canada. I mean, it was all over the news. It was all over the newspapers, magazines, everywhere.
Yeah, that what I was talking about with the publication ban was imposed on Holmoka's preliminary inquiry.
Yeah.
They applied for the ban, which is imposed on July 5th by Francis Kovacs of the Ontario Court of Justice. And through her lawyers, they supported the ban, of course.
No, that's right.
So eventually, Paul's lawyer, one who watched the tapes and pretty much ruined himself because he had a daughter who was about the same age as these girls on here.
Yeah, he killed him, man.
He ended up kind of just breaking down and decided that he couldn't do this and just walked out, declined to
represent him anymore.
Thank you, sir.
Yes.
And then, so whoever came in after him, he handed off the tapes to him, and that guy turned them in straight away because he knows that's what he's supposed to do.
Exactly.
So, but anyway, he definitely handed off the tapes to the new lawyer, and the lawyer promptly turned them over to the prosecution, so everybody had a copy, or
Exactly.
whatever the deal was.
That's right. But now, the Crown, they asserted that the videotape showed Paul's attitude towards his victims, saying that he not only degraded them, but also continually demanded they thank him and ask for more. And by his behavior, recorded on tape, he showed that he thought nothing of the two girls and would have not hesitated to have killed them. Any reasonable person who had seen the videotapes would find it impossible to believe that Karla Holmoka would do anything to his victims without permission. And the video footage demonstrates that Paul remained in control at all times and was the dominant participant in the murders. But to see these tapes never recorded any murders at all.
Everything but the actual murder.
It was all the torture and the rapes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I don't know if they did that on purpose or if it was just because it took both of them to do it.
Yeah, but I don't know.
But you would think
it was smart for them not to record that.
that's true.
Yeah.
Well, it would have been smart not to record any of it.
This is true.
But
that was just Paul's thing.
The most thing about blows my mind about the whole damn case. I mean, besides him want to be a filmmaker and a
Rap artist.
rap artist and a rapist,
Yeah.
I'm gonna do them all, So damn, but yeah, it kind of blows my mind that he would actually have been videotaping everything he did.
Yeah. But the prosecution believed that Karla was guilty as a party to first-degree murder when Paul strangled them, which were permitted at the time. The videotapes were hidden from the authorities. Now, in February of 1994, this is when Karla divorced Paul Bernardo.
Yeah.
Yeah.
On September 12th, 1994, John Rosen, who had replaced Mr. Murray as Paul Bernardo's defense counsel, he went in, he had turned the tapes over, of course, and then went back and they had taken the tapes in. He'd kept them about 2 weeks before he turned them in.
That's right.
And once he turned them over to the prosecution, they, I guess they had to look at them themselves or whatever. Then, anyway, these tapes were not allowed to be shown to the spectators in court. Only the audio was going to be available to them. So what they did is they took monitors and turned the monitors toward the jury and the court officials, and they watched the films as the people in the court could only hear. Which, I don't know which one's worse.
I don't know either, man. Can you imagine?
Right. And so, and Bernardo, he had always claimed that while he raped and tortured Leslie Mahaffey and Kristen French, Holmoka had actually killed him. And after the videotapes had been found, rumors spread that Holmoka was an active participant in all these crimes. The public grew pretty pissed off as the extent of Holmoka's role was really exposed, especially after she had already got the plea deal. So now that the tapes are in, people are actually seeing what she's really doing in the videos, and everybody's getting pissed off. Because they're like, she only got 12 years and she's doing just as much as him. It doesn't really make sense here.
Yeah.
But, all they're seeing is what he directed, as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, and they're actually showing her at times as a willing participant.
Right.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. And, I'm not saying that she was always forced to do everything in there either, so I'm not taking up for her.
Yeah,
I'm going down that road again.
She could have left any time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
She might not have liked the consequences, but she still could have.
Exactly.
Right. So on September 1st of 1995, Bernardo was convicted on a number of offenses.
Yes.
Including 2 first-degree murders, 2 aggravated sexual assaults. He was sentenced to life in prison without parole for at least 25 years. He was designated as a dangerous offender, making him unlikely to ever be released.
Yeah, he probably won't get out.
Right. So even after he can get out, even after 25 years in Canada, him being designated as a dangerous offender makes it probably not going to happen.
Yes.
And then she only got 12 years, and she's done. He also got convicted of degradation of a human corpse for sawing that girl up. So all that added together, so he probably not getting out. Plus, if you think about it, even if he was to get out of these, they could still drop those, 47 rapes or whatever that they know he did from the DNA. So he really I don't see he's ever got a chance of getting out.
No. But they did do transcripts of these tapes, and you can Google these, and you can find the transcripts online.
Well, some of them, it's pretty rough, though.
It's rough to read, man. I read some of it. It give you cold chills to read this stuff they did.
Yeah.
But it was reported that the tapes were destroyed.
Yes, they were. Yep, after all this,
Mm-hmm.
the court destroyed them.
But like we said before, the government agreed to a 12-year sentence in exchange for Karla's cooperation.
Right.
Yep.
And then she came up for parole. It was past the third year, like I said before, but she did turn down the first time and just feared of what would happen if she got out.
Mm-hmm.
She was more worried about that, which, I see, especially as everybody's so pissed off.
But she, there was reported there while she was in prison, she'd met another prisoner. I think she was in a co-ed prison, and there would have been some pictures that got out of her living a lavish lifestyle there in prison, Dale.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Laying out in the sun, doing all kinds of stuff.
Yeah, had TV and all kinds of things, just living it up.
And people got pissed off at that.
They did.
She was transferred to another prison.
Yeah, but she'd met another guy in prison, and they struck up a romance and exchanged letters, and I think she would hand him her underwear.
To the fence through the fence somehow.
Handing him underwear through the fence, yeah.
Off.
Yeah. But she was ultimately released in 2005 and has since remarried.
Mm-hmm.
And she ended up marrying the brother of her legal counsel, her lawyer.
Yes.
Yeah. And she has also given birth to 3 kids.
Yep.
During this time since she's been out. And she was serving as a assistant at one of her children's schools, her kids' schools. And the public had gotten word of this and found out, and they
shut that down.
They banned her from coming back onto the school property. I also read too, Dale, that she gets online and she belongs to some of these chat groups on kids, on how to raise kids and how to do different things.
Well, when she first got married, they moved to the Caribbean because she had learned to speak French while she was in prison, and because that's what she wanted to do. So when they got out, maybe they could move to Quebec or somewhere, where it's French. But so they went to an island in the Caribbean. I don't remember which one, but it's a French-speaking island too. And they went there and stayed there for several years, and that's when she first got pregnant. But anyway, she had started like an online business where she was selling handmade diapers sewn with the love of her own hands, with her own sewing machine.
Mm-hmm.
So she started a little deal their way too. So I'm sure she's doing some other stuff too. But how the hell would she know what good life is?
Exactly. But there were some conditions to her release when she got out of prison.
Yeah, first, yeah.
They were one of them was she was to tell police her home address, her work address, and whom she lives with.
And if she ever changed her name, and if she was going to go out of town, she had to give 72 hours, ahead.
Yep.
But eventually they made them drop all that because, hell, she done her time, free and clear.
Yeah. One of the conditions was she was not to contact Paul Bernardo, the families of Leslie Mahaffey or Kristen French,
right,
or that of the known woman as Jane Doe,
right,
or any violent criminals.
It should be stupid to do that anyway.
And she was also forbidden to be with people under the age of 16.
Right.
She was also forbidden of consuming drugs or any prescription medication. And she was required to continue therapy and counsel. And she was also required to provide police a DNA sample.
But eventually they dropped all these stuff that's where all this reporting because, like I said, they finally was like, look, she served her time.
Mm-hmm.
She should free and clear. You said 12, she gave you 12.
Yep.
And she didn't even get out early, so they couldn't really put no conditions on her because it wasn't a parole. She was out.
Yeah, she's free and clear.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It wasn't parole, where they can put a lot of, conditions on you. She was done.
Yeah. But she is a free woman today.
Yep.
Married with 3 kids. And
isn't that ironic? Yeah. They took 3 lives.
And she has 3 kids. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've seen a lot of stuff online about that.
Mm.
Yeah.
Those poor kids, man. You think when they grow up a little bit and find out who their mom is.
Yeah. They're going to have to live with that, man. That was her mom.
Yep.
I mean, they didn't ask for that.
Right.
But that's going to follow them from now on.
Oh, yeah. The crazy story.
But Paul's never getting out, dude. I don't think he'll ever get out.
No.
He's in there.
No, I've seen some interviews where he starts out talking like he's ready to get out, and by the time he's done talking, he's smacking his hands on the desk and talking 100 mile an hour and worked into a frenzy.
Yep.
Yeah, you're not getting anywhere, buddy.
Nope. But anyway, that is the Ken and Barbie Killers.
The Ken and Barbie Killers.
Wow. Karla, Holmoka, and Paul Bernardo.
Yep.
All right, dude. We're going to get out of here, man.
Let's roll.
We want everyone to be safe. Please be careful and always be aware of your surroundings.
Because the next episode could be about you.
This is the Crack House Chronicles.